And it is true. Kids know God when they came here. I knew God when I came here. All right, so Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hi, my name is Susan Michel. It is great to be here as always. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. My book is based on the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we're all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. This is just such a fabulous platform to be able to exchange ideas and grow and learn through connecting with our brothers. And my good friend and soul sister, Myrna Skoller, is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, which is the perfect companion for the Course in Miracles workbook for students. That's one of the many books she's written. How are you, Myrna?
Thank you for asking. I'm doing very well, thank you. Very well. I don't have
Good,
a complaint,
good.
not a complaint.
Good, good. And Glorian is here as well
Hi,
to share
Lauren.
with
Good to see you,
us. How
Lauren.
are you today, Glorian?
Doing pretty well, doing pretty well. We just had a really uplifting meeting and uplifted consciousness, and I'm glad to be here with both of you as always. And it's freezing here in NYC, so I'm bundled up.
I know, here in Massachusetts as well. We had a taste of summer and then it went back down to the 40s. So, yep, the temperature goes up and down. I will start with the introduction of my book, as I usually do. What I write in the introduction of Surrender to Joy is my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with three simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. And it really helps me to recite that because it's very clear to me that when I am connected to my own joy, when I feel abundant, when I feel at peace, I am connected to my true nature. And that's what I'm always trying to remember, trying to tap into, keep myself plugged into my God socket, as I think I coined that phrase. I'm always trying to keep myself plugged into my God socket. Today's lesson is just a fabulous lesson, as they always are. Today is the 143rd day of 2025. So if you started the lessons on January 1st, today is a review. And each day in the review, we say to ourselves, my mind holds only what I think with God. That is just so profound, so poignant, so wonderful, so on point. And I when I do say that to myself hourly, it helps so much because I have my true self who is just all about trusting, just being fully present in the moment, trusting God, trusting my path, trusting my inner guidance. My mind holds only what I think with love, with God, with love, same thing, with God, with love. So when I am focused on the love, when I'm focused on the beauty, I feel at peace. And then today is a review, and the two review lessons state, in quiet, I receive God's word today, meaning that it is so easy to get distracted by everything that's going on in the world. But when we get distracted, we're basically in egoic territory and we cannot hear God's voice when our mind is racing, when we are in angst, when we're focused on the world, we can't hear God's voice. So it's really important to allow ourselves to be fully present with whatever we're doing. I notice for myself, when I'm fully focused on whatever I'm doing, I feel at peace. But when there is a part of me that feels like, oh, I have to move fast. Oh, I'm doing this, but I should be doing that. And I think we all have it. So it's just to be fully present in the moment, to be fully present with whatever we're doing. So that's here. In quiet, I receive God's word today. When our mind is still and focused, I can hear God's word. And if there is anything that God wants me to channel to my brother, who is whomever I'm with, then I can hear his voice. His voice is really my voice, but it's my voice, with a capital V. Everything from God in A Course in Miracles is with a capital letter. So it's my voice with a capital V as opposed to a small v. It's very beautiful how when we are focused, we can hear God talk to us. And then the second part of today's lesson is all that I give is given to myself, which is a review as well. So this kind of goes to a certain point I made at the last talk here when I spoke about giving. So when we are giving to someone else, we are giving to ourselves because God has but one son and we're all part of the same sonship. So when I truly give to my brother, I feel uplifted, I feel joyous, because as I give to him, I give to myself. And it's a very beautiful truth that when we give, we receive. A miracle is a win-win. There is no such thing as a win-lose. Win-lose is ego. When we feel like if somebody else has to lose for us to win, or vice versa, we have to lose for somebody else to win, that's ego. When we're connected to spirit, we realize that giving and receiving are the same. So again, all that I give is given to myself. Beautiful workbook lesson. Thoughts, Myrna?
It's beautiful. What you said before really touched on something, and that is being in the moment. I was listening to Bashar this morning, and somebody asked, how do we not age? And Bashar said, it's by being in the moment. That's how you not age. And then he went on to say, is if you're doing something that you're passionate about, that you love to do because you are in the moment, and that's when you're achieving that ability to concentrate on what you're passionate about, and you're doing it for 5 hours and you don't real 4 hours, and then you look up and you feel as if you were just doing it for 15 minutes, where it's really a number of hours that has passed by, that you've only aged 15 minutes. I love that analogy. I really did, because it brought me to, you talk about my books. I mean, one of my passions is writing. I want to write. My only fear is that I'll have nothing else to write about when I finish what I'm writing. Right now, I'm working on a murder mystery, but I have to tell you, I can be working on that easily several hours with nonstop. And then I look up and I can't believe it. I can't believe the time. It's like I'm racing with the clock. I just, I don't want to look up. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I should get to bed, but I'm not tired. I'm totally focused. And I find the reason that I love it as much as I do is because that truly is what keeps me in the moment. I am completely focused on what I'm writing about. So that was a very telling thought. And when you said, you mentioned that just before, being in the moment, whether it's meditating or whether it's doing something that's keeping you focused on the present moment, then you're not in the ego's territory, as you put it. You're in the world of magic.
Yeah, in the world of miracles. We're in the
Miracles.
world of miracles when we're fully present in the moment. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And I love the fact that you enjoy writing so much. You're a true channel, Myrna. That's amazing. Gloria, thoughts?
Yeah, beautiful conversation. I'm just loving it. Today's lesson is really just so beautiful. My mind holds only what I think with God. And it reminds me in the Bible where he talks about, I will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is fixed on me. And the idea is we want to be aligned with the mind of God, allowing it to lead and direct our lives because then it's perfect. So through true humility, we let go of the ego and we allow this flow of the Christ, which is the truth, which is the only peace to lead and direct. And in quiet, I receive God's word today. The quiet mind, that quiet answer, the eternal now. And all that I give is given to myself. All that I give is given to myself. The what I can only give what I have received. So when I'm giving the love received, realized in that quiet mind. I receive what I am in that quiet mind. And then I allow that flow to go forth where my thoughts, I'm sharing the thoughts and ideas and I'm increasing them, but I'm increasing them within myself because there's only one. And I love what Myrna shared there. And the idea of being in the flow, in the now, in the quiet mind, in that holy instant, just allowing spirit to guide and direct. And in doing so, she doesn't have to think about what to write because spirit takes it and leads. And we know that by her beautiful writing, that it's spirit inspired. But the idea of, letting go of yesterday's manner, not going upon those thoughts, but moving into that space where I receive that fresh manna. And it reminds me of like go unto our holy open hands unto our God. And I was talking about that yesterday, that the idea of hands or the touch of God or the finger of God, what really is being said here, there are no hands, there are no fingers, but beyond the concepts of the hands and the fingers is that touch of Christ. So we always want to be receptive in allowing spirit to impart through us the touch of Christ. And we can only do so if we're out of that ego mind and aligned with the Christ mind. Thank you.
Thank you,
So,
Gloria. That was beautiful. A touch
so
of
today,
Christ. Sorry.
that's okay. Um, Today, yeah, I always get so much out of what Myrna shares and what Glorian shares, and they provoke thoughts in me. So thank you both, Myrna. Thank you, Glorian. You're both such wise, beautiful channels. Uh, so this morning, I started the day plugged into my God socket, I believe. And then I went on a run, which, although the weather is colder, it was the perfect running weather. It was in the 40s, no wind, which is perfect for running. And then all of a sudden, I got into a bit of I started being aware of the time and I started stressing out about time because I had to get from, or I wanted to get from the reservoir to the gym in time for spin. And I started being aware of the time and a few cars, in the road weren't driving properly. And I got a little off center. And then this is what happened. This is when the ego took over. And I think it's very interesting how it works. I parked my car and there was a homeless gentleman that immediately came over to me and asked me if I had money or food. And I was in a rush to get in the gym. I actually did not have any money. I had no money on me, nothing, no dollar bills in my wallet. For food, I had a banana, but the banana was something that I planned on eating immediately after my spin class because that's what I do to get potassium. So I thought about giving him the banana, but for some reason I didn't. And I said, I'm so sorry. I have nothing to give you. And he hemmed and hawed a little bit, and then he went away. But I don't think the problem was that I didn't give to him. I think because really all I had to do is to extend love to him, because that's all I think I need to feel like I'm connected to source energy, to extend love. But instead of extending love, I started feeling guilty.
Oh.
So the ego took over. Ooh, as I was walking into the gym, I should have given him my banana, you know? And maybe this was a test, I started thinking, from God in heaven. And I just flunked the test because I didn't give him anything. So it was just so interesting. And my mind was just kind of in the rabbit hole or in the darkness or with the ego. The ego was very happy, but I wasn't, because I went into the guilt. And it's just so apparent to me when we go into, A Course in Miracles is very clear that we're completely with spirit or we're completely with ego. We can't have one foot in each space at the same time, because the two sides don't know each other. Spirit doesn't know ego because ego is an illusion. Ego doesn't know spirit because ego is an illusion. Ego is fear-based. Spirit is love-based. So it wasn't what I did, because if I choose not to give it a certain time, that's the choice I made. But it was that I felt guilty about it. And it took me quite a couple of hours to process that. You have any thoughts, Myrna?
Totally, absolutely. Because, it's funny, Gloria said a touch of Christ. You told the story about just now what you experienced, the ego as opposed to spirit. You're right. God, I'm sure, doesn't expect you to give up your banana. All you need to do really is extend love and not feel guilty about it. But I had an experience that I'd like to share with you. Because this was so profound. Pat, my boyfriend, has a boat, and we went out on the boat Wednesday night. Now, what I'm finding, look, I'm not 20 anymore, and getting in and out of the boat can be a little bit of a struggle. Okay. It's just, it's like, it's not that easy for me. But yet I do okay. I swim every day. I keep my weight down. I do a lot that a lot of people my age can't do, but I'm finding a little bit of a struggle. Anyway, I get into the boat with him, and we're going out to dinner. We dock the boat, and he parks the boat next to a piling, okay? Whereas the boat was a little bit out of the, there was too much of an expansion between the dock and the boat. The canal is in between. Anyway, I managed to get out, and there's still a little bit of a struggle. We're having dinner, and now it's time to go back in. But now the boat is even further apart, and there's just no way that I can see that I can get into this boat. There's just no way that I can do it. And I say to Jesus, I know that and everybody, and Pat, and there's another couple with us, which, believe me, they had a harder time than I did, okay? But nevertheless, they're saying, okay, just jump over. But the expanse, I was afraid to jump. It was just, I thought I could make it, but then the fear took over, and I said, I can't do it. And now I'm feeling guilty because I should be just trusting Jesus. Jesus is not going to let me fall into anything terrible to happen. I always rely on him for everything. I never go wrong when I rely on him. And now I'm not relying on him, and I'm feeling very guilty about that, and should I jump? Should I do this? And then again, what's taking over is I can't do it. I'm just not going to make it. With that, I'm telling you, there's a divine intervention. A guy comes over, I'm telling you, strong, big muscles without a shirt. He says to me, can I help you? So I look at him. He says, I promise you, you're not going to fall. He said, let me help you. Well, the strength of this man was so great that I easily made it onto the platform and made it over. Okay. But what I learned from that experience is Jesus said to me loud and clear, it's okay to feel fear. Don't ever feel guilty because you're feeling fearful. That's a human emotion. And it's the same thing with you. You felt guilty, and then you feel guilty about feeling guilty. And it's even worse. So don't feel bad about feeling guilty, because that's an emotion. It's what you do with the guilt that changes everything. It's the negative emotion that you can absolutely change into something positive. So it's what you do with the negativity that really results in the positive outcome. And that's what I learned. That's it. I love
I
what you
love that.
shared.
I love
Yeah.
that story. I love that story. I know we feel guilt about feeling guilty. We feel guilt about feeling fear. And then the whole thing, the ego, the ego's having a heyday. Glorian?
Yeah, I love these two stories. And the idea is that we just learn to laugh at the insanity that we're talking about. The guilt, the ego is there to keep guilt alive, to keep itself in preserved. So the ego is self-preservation, which is guilt, and it'll manifest in many, many different ways. So the guilt, I should have given the banana, I should do this. And ultimately, that doesn't mean we could do something, but we don't have to. And I think that once we recognize that, sometimes saying no to others is saying yes to us. And that has to be okay if it's our guidance. So if we're constantly, asking spirit, what should I do? What should I go? What should I say and to whom? And really resting a moment and listening for the impartation of guidance, and then you just follow it. But the idea is the ego is going to continue to generate fear so that we can keep ourselves we keep separate from the truth of what we are. When we really look at it, there is no banana, there's no boat, there's none of this. And God's love. We can give only love, but what is love? Love is not a symbol. Love is not specialness. Love is an experience. So the only love that we can truly give, where Jesus tells us to have, give all to all, he means the love that we've received, and that we become an extension of that love. It's not really a direction of what that we should give a banana to someone. We say it's not right or wrong. That's duality. The idea is, once we recognize that the only thing I really can give is love, and I can only give love if I claim it and I accept it as what I am, and not look at love as a symbol of something, but an experience of oneness. Thanks.
Can I just say
Thank-
something?
Yes.
You could have shared the banana with him too. You could have said, "Look, I need this banana for potassium, but I'll share it with you," and given him half of it. That probably would have solved the problem. That's just that's probably that's what I probably might have thought to do if I was in your position.
That's what I talked about it with the cycle teacher, and that's what he said. He said, if you had a knife, you could have cut the banana in half. That's exactly what he said. I like what Gloria and Jadav wrote a lot of really wonderful thoughts here in the chat room. If I feel guilty, I cannot extend love. I mean, that is so great, because once you go into the guilt, you no longer have the ability to channel God's love. You no longer have the ability to channel God's love, because guilt and love are antithetical. Guilt and love do not know each other. It is impossible, Dove writes, to be in two different worlds, lesson 130. And we live in a sea of synchronicity, Dove writes, within an ocean of love. Love is sharing. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. A sea of synchronicity. And I love what Glorian shared too, because that really made me think. Saying no sometimes is of God, because what we're doing is we're setting healthy boundaries. So, I mean, the most important thing is self-love. The most important thing is self-care, because if we don't love ourselves, we have no love to extend to our brother. And that has been a big soul lesson of mine in this lifetime. looked up the meaning of love in the glossary of terms by Robert Perry that I love to recite when we hit on one of these talking points, because I love his take on the different words, the different important words in A Course in Miracles. And what he writes is, he writes, although the Course says that the meaning of love cannot be learned, only known, it does attempt to teach us a kind of love that reflects love's real meaning. We learn this love in the holy instant. Conventional love is characterized by specialness. We dole out love selectively to certain special people. We look on someone and decide whether to love that person, in what way, how much, when, and what other feelings to mix in with that love. That's such a great point, because when we're loving from an ego perspective, some people are more important to us than others. When we connect to love, from God's perspective, which is our true perspective, we love everyone equally. And that's something interesting about the homeless man as well. When he approached me, I was definitely not plugged into my God socket. I know that right now, because I was like stressed about time. I was experiencing some road anger. I don't know if you'd call it road rage, but I was definitely experiencing some road anger. So at the time he approached me, I was not in my right mind. I was not capable of extending God's love. I was in ego terrain, because so it wasn't about him, it was about me. I wasn't connected to myself, so I didn't have love to extend to him. And then he says here, this is not, okay, when we look on someone and decide whether to love that person, in what way, how much, when, and what other feelings to mix in with that love, this is not to know the meaning of love. The meaning of love is that love is one, united within itself and unopposed by a second. In other words, real love loves everyone with the exact same love, and it knows no other feeling, no other response. It loves someone without deciding if he is worthy. It loves him with the same love it gives everyone and everything, without distinguishing him from others. It loves him without limit and without change, with a love that is unaware of any other feeling but love. To love in this way is to know the meaning of love. A Course in Miracles, again, is telling us that it cannot teach us the meaning of love. Love is who and what we are. The only thing it can do is teach us to identify our blocks so we can remove them. It helps us to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So when we are plugged into our God socket, again, we love whomever crosses our path. I just, again, intersected with this homeless man when I was in ego territory, and then I went deeper into the darkness. But there was no reason for me to feel guilty. The only thing you have to do when you go into guilt is just let it go and shine light on the darkness. I mean, maybe there was something in me that needed to be healed. So, thoughts, Myrna?
Yes. Guilt is a human emotion, and it's a negative state of mind, obviously, but you can take the guilt and you can change it. You can turn it around and make it something positive, because everything, as we said before today, actually, we've said this often, that everything is a lesson or a blessing, everything. And this is a lesson for you. It was, a lesson, I think. I mean, I think everything that happens in a negative capacity is really a way of learning. It's something to learn from. It's something to bring to light and to experience the healing from that particular lesson, that particular negativity that resulted in the healing of the emotion that brought us down in the first place. So to belabor a negative feeling is really only more negativity, and it only takes you further down, it doesn't lift you up. So I like that story because obviously, the guilt was something that you took with you. It wasn't just a momentary thing. It was a moment. It was something that you sort of belabored. And but it, even expressing that story to us, it taught me something too. It really did. I got something out of that. The first thing I thought about, well, that was I probably wouldn't have wanted to give away something that I felt that I was sacrificing for. So the first thing that came to mind is, well, maybe split it. That was what I learned. That something about myself too, that could have been a way of handling it as well. So if anything, this was a learning venue for for you, and by expressing it and telling us about it, it certainly makes us understand that it's something that you really can benefit by if you get something out of it. And that brings us to love, which you were saying before. What is love? Love is an emotion that has no gaps. It just is what it is, and it can't be taught. As you said, love has to be known. It's something that we just know is a state of being, and nothing interferes with that. There's nothing that can create any kind of false feeling. Certainly, guilt doesn't belong in when you're feeling guilt, you're not feeling love, because nothing can mar love except guilt. So that was nice, Susan.
Thank you, Myrna. Gloria?
Yeah, I love what you shared there, Myrna, because the whole everything is a teaching learning situation. So when we come together and we share our thoughts and ideas, we all move deeper into self-realization. So that's what we're here for, to join in that oneness that we are by recognizing it. So if we're telling a story, we're recognizing that through ego, but we use the ego to get out of the ego. I like what Dove put here. Love is not an emotion, it's awareness. Awareness doesn't judge. It's unconditional love, Ken Wapnick. And that's really perfect. The recognition that love, can't really be described. It's an experience. And what words we use, pure awareness, whatever words we use for it, that resonates and is imparted to us. But that's the goal, is that we're getting out of this perceptual thinking mind and moving into the experience, which is knowledge. We let go of the acquired learning part and the unlearning part and move into the knowledge, which is the experience. But when you were sharing before, it was coming to me that, like, if you're giving out of sacrifice, then that's not love. So we recognize Jesus tells us, I gladly give up the sacrifice of fear. And what is fear but duality? Good, bad, right, wrong, the judging of myself. That is truly loving. When we relinquish judgment, then we're moving into forgiveness. And it's always self-forgiveness, because everything's a projection of my mind. So the idea is, once we ask and then we follow that guidance of the loving thing to do, then that's coming from the higher mind and not from a sense of obligation or fear or sacrifice. And when you were talking about loving equally, so where Jesus tells us only equals are at peace, we recognize, to see everyone equally, we have to be aligned with the right mind, with the Christ mind. The other mind's evaluative. So there's no way that the ego, which is divisive, can see my brother equally. So we have to be aligned with our innocence and our sinlessness and guiltlessness in order to recognize that in our brother. So, we practice, practice, practice. But I totally agree that the goal is that we want to recognize the light that's beyond all concepts, and that these are concepts and images that are, they're offering us the opportunity to see something differently, to see what's really there, that beyond the concept is the love. And I think this is a great conversation here of, really clarifying for ourselves about love, and how love really can't be articulated, because it's an experience, and the true experience is the acceptance of what I am. So then I recognize that what I seemingly, beyond what I seemingly see out there. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Dove wrote, teach only love, for that is what you are. The love is always here. We are responsible for removing the blocks to love. Awareness sees all equally. Awareness is sameness, is oneness, is. Because, yeah, I mean, all we need to do is we need to be fully present in the moment, as we started today's talk with that one particular point, and when we are completely present in the moment, we can feel the truth of who we are, because we are all love, and we all want to return to the essence of who and what we are. Again, that's why I love the theme of this series of review lessons, because my mind holds only what I think with God. As you really focus on that line, I mean, think about it. It's like, when I love, I'm connected to source energy, I'm connected to my truth, I am at peace. That's such a beautiful line, thought, concept to embody. And I have been doing this hourly, and I recognize when I'm connected to the truth about who I am, and when I go off center. I feel the peace of God when I really focus on the love, and I trust, and I'm fully present. Yesterday's review lines, there's 2 lines to each review lesson here. Yesterday's review is, I thank my Father for his gifts to me. Let me remember I am one with God. I always say that the 3 fastest ways to connect to the truth of who we are is gratitude, to be grateful, which is just such a beautiful, empowering thought to connect to. Just the characteristic of gratitude is so empowering. It's so expansive. Forgiveness, because again, when we forgive our brother, we're forgiving ourselves. And acceptance of everything in our life exactly as it is. And as Glorian said, when we love is not about sacrifice, because if we think that we need to give, we need to lose in order to serve God, I mean, that's ego. Whenever we sacrifice anything, we are in fear. So going back to the little example of the banana and the homeless man, I mean, it's really, it's not about the banana, it's or giving money or giving food. It's not about that. It's about giving love. That's all anyone wants. I mean, I really think too, thinking back, I don't think that the homeless man, I mean, was he hungry? I don't know. I mean, he said he was hungry, but I think what people really want is love. So it's all about extending love, just loving as often as possible. And then everything works out perfectly. So it has nothing to do with what you do. I mean, I could have given him the banana. I could have not given him the banana. I mean, it's not about what you do. It's about where your mindset is. So sometimes the right thing to do is to give something to someone else, whatever that something is. Sometimes that's the right thing to do. Sometimes the right thing is to say no. because I think healthy boundaries are important too. And sometimes the right thing is to say no. But whether you choose to give or you choose to say no, not give, and you're listening to divine guidance, the most important thing is to come from a place of love, whether you say yes or no, and release the guilt, because guilt plays no part in love, none at all. Thoughts, Myrna?
Yeah, everything you're saying is all Course in Miracles, and that's what we live by. The Course in Miracles. That's the value of the teaching of A Course in Miracles. It teaches us that there is no sacrifice, and that, like what you said, right, by all we can do is share love, and when we share it, it's received. You talk about uh, giving something away. When somebody gives you something, if they give it with an open heart, you feel it, really. If somebody gives you something and they're not really wanting to give it to you, also sense that as well. So it is the love can be attached to the giving, if that's that's it is tied up in the thing that you're giving away. So in other words, if you're giving with love, the person that's receiving it is receiving what you get, receiving the love, because you're giving it in a way that it's benefiting you, because you're feeling the love by extending it. And so, you're bestowing something wonderful with the gift, the love that you're feeling with it. So I think it's always important to give with love. And you don't have to give things away if you're not expressing, you're not feeling the need to do so. That doesn't mean that you're holding back love. It means that you just, like you said, it's not the banana itself, it's the love that you are feeling, that really is what they're looking for, what anybody is looking for. Everybody wants love. In fact, that's why I always acknowledge a homeless person, uh, because I don't run away at all, because I want to extend my love to the person that's asking me for something, and I'll reach in and I will give away something, and I do it with a full heart. I really do, and I find that more often than not. In fact, I never remember an experience when a homeless person didn't say thank you, God bless, you know. It's a good, but the very fact that you acknowledge this man, and then you said he went away, was a form of love. You didn't push him away. You didn't feel fear because he was homeless and he was approaching you. The very fact that here you are at the reservoir and he's approaching you and you're speaking to him, and I don't have it. You didn't have anything to give, and but the love was shown in your acknowledgement of the person. That in itself was a show of love. That's how I would perceive it. So kudos to you, Susan.
Thanks, Myrna. Gloria?
Yeah, I really like that story, Myrna. And I know for myself, there was one day, it was freezing. It was in the middle of the winter, and I went to Penn Station. I was going out to see my mom, and all over the steps were homeless people laying there. And, what could you do? There were just so many. But the idea was to recognize that beyond that seeming image is the Christ laying there. So, it wasn't like, oh my goodness, are they going to clean this up? Which is what the ego would have thought. But my feeling was that this is somebody's child and that there's the Christ laying there. And I really wish there were something that I could do for them. But there were so many. I mean, so whenever we can, extend generosity to the homeless, it's nice. But with that said, like with Susan's example, I think, if we recognize I should do this, is an obligation of the ego, and an obligation of the ego is not loving. So whether you do something or not is the judgment. So we want to be willing not to judge ourselves, but use it. So, just like there's no sin, everything's a mistake that needs to be corrected. And I'm not suggesting it was the wrong thing to do, because I think you might have needed the potassium And that I certainly can't judge it. That would have to be imparted to you through, through spirit. But there's always a different way of looking at things, is I guess what I'm trying to say, is that we can judge it one way, someone else might judge it another way, coming from their own guilt and fear. So that's what we would say, like subjective thinking, that somebody's projecting their own guilt and unresolved issues out there, but it has meaning for them. If we see it, we own it. Now it has meaning for us. But when you were talking about peace and that, just acceptance, in the acceptance of everything, we're not resisting it, we're using it. In the acceptance, we're willing to rest what we think we know and let all things be as they are. Now, that on the level of the world, we can look at it like that, but we can also rise above and recognize letting all things be as they are, which is in a state of grace. And all there is grace. And our responsibility is to recognize, not beat ourselves up, not do anything, recognize that our self-imposed limiting ideas are obscuring that grace that is only real from my experience, from my view, from Christ's vision. The ego thought system is projecting its self-imposed, accepted limiting ideas on the reality that's always there, that I can see if I align my mind with the Christ mind. So, I'm responsible for what I see. And people be like, wow, they start to blame themselves with that one. I'm responsible for what I see. I did, but there's no blame. It's empowerment. Because once we recognize that I'm responsible for what I see, I can make a different choice about it. And that's what we're here to do. This is a classroom, and we're learning, and we're going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I really think the only thing that, we are here to learn is that I'm not a body. Ultimately, that's the lesson that we came here to learn, is that I am not this body. But, along the way, there is that undoing of fear and guilt through the atonement process, leading us back. So we're always gentle. We're gentle with ourselves, not beating ourselves up. I should have done this. I could have done. Gentleness. We use everything. We're vigilant for God and the kingdom, and just live that way, moment to moment. Thanks.
Thank you, Gloria, and thank you so much. And thank you, Myrna. You are like both so wise and so clear, and I'm blessed to be here with you. I am going to go early because I have a event to be at soon. So I'm going to turn the microphone back to Myrna, if that's okay. But I love you both, and I've loved my time here.
Love you too.
So thank you, and I will see you again next week. Have a beautiful Memorial Day weekend holiday.
You too. Love you.
Thanks. Love you.
Thank you, Susan. See you Monday.
Yeah.
See you Monday.
Okay. Hey, Gloria.
Yeah, well, I guess we could just, any final
course.
thoughts on love and what Dove said. Let's see what Dove put into the chat. He said, awareness sees all equally, right? In true, pure awareness, we're identified with what I am. And teach only love, for that is what you are. We have to be aligned with love in order to extend it. The love is always here, and we are responsible for removing the blocks to love. And that's a good point that he has there. The ideas of sin and guilt, judgments and grievances that we hold that obscure the reality of what I am from my awareness, love's presence. So yeah, we just, like I was saying, I think it's just a moment to moment choice that we make on really where we want to be. If we want to see this, what we make with the ego, or if we want to be into what the extension of love that we are through accepting ourselves as we were created.
Yeah, as you just said, removing the blocks to love. When you think about that, that's what the Course in Miracles tells us. So if that means we're inherently made of love, nothing less than that. And so we really just need to remove all the debris that's keeping us from understanding what the true love is. And that's a very important catchphrase in A Course in Miracles, removing the blocks to love. So, and that's what we work on. And that's what we really need to persist in doing, because once we remove the blocks to love, then we're in the present moment. And the present moment, as Bashar said, I was listening to him this morning, that if you're in the moment, you will not age. And that makes sense because there's no time in the present. The time does not exist in the moment. Time is of the ego. That's what time is. And we're always kind of rushing around and looking, we live by the clock. And that's so 90% of the time we're involved with the ego's time limits, time frames. And so I like that idea. I mean, if we can stay in the moment and work at something for 5 hours, and we look at the clock and see that how much, can't believe the time that went by because we're doing what we're really passionate about, and we've only aged 15 minutes. I love that analogy. And it makes sense to me. It really does, because when you're in timelessness, then the body is also in timelessness. Everything else, everything you're feeling, everything else that you're experiencing is just timeless. It was an interesting concept for me. So yeah, I like that, Florian, a lot, you know.
Yeah, that's beautiful because, in the eternal now, there is no time. And
Mhm.
that's what we recognize, in the holy instant where we're letting go of our story, we're letting go of the perceived imagined future and resting in the spirit of God as I was created. That experience is from out of time because the linear time comes from the perception and the judgment before, after. So when we're in that place of oneness, time disappears. And true forgiveness, which is non-judgment. So if we're in the place of judgment, we're in the place of oneness. We're no longer judging, which is projecting, which is lack of forgiveness. Because forgiveness is the acceptance of what I am, recognizing that what my brother did never occurred. And we could only recognize that if we are in that realized state of being. Otherwise, in the ego, we'll see comparisons. We're not going to see that. But I like what you said about what you said, Bashar shared. And, I was listening to something by Joel, and he was saying when the fear of death disappears, there's no more sickness. So that's the same kind of thing. So when the fear of death disappears, there's no more sickness because you're not in thought, you're not in duality. When the fear of death, because the ego is here to preserve itself and keep us separate. So when the fear of death disappears, when we can move into presence or pure awareness, like Dove was saying, then there's no more sickness. And that would take us back to what we just said about the now or the holy instant. There's no more, and in realized oneness, there's healing. In realized love, what we are in truth, there's no more death.
I love that. I love that because you can relate to something like that. When you think about that, you're right. When you have no fear of death, it only makes sense. Then you're not going to attract anything that will cause the death. It just makes so much sense to me. It's so true. And when things are said sometimes, and I can latch on to that statement because I resonate with it. I mean, I'm 84 years old, but I honestly have no fear of death. That there's so much cancer in my family. I mean, everybody in my family, all the women have died from cancer, including my sister, my mother, her two sisters, my grandmother. But yet it doesn't even occur to me that it's going to happen. It just doesn't. And if it did happen, I honestly tell the Holy Spirit, I don't even care, because I know, as long as I'm comfortable, and I know there's always something that would make me comfortable, no matter what the perceived illness is, if there is. And yet here I am moving along without the fear of death and without a fear of being as sick. And it's so liberating not to worry about that. It's just
Right.
a wonderful state to be in. I love that you brought that up, Gloria. Really, I do.
Yeah, what you shared there is just a total blessing. And I
It's
have
a
to
blessing.
honestly say to you that after my NDE and everything else, I really can relate to that. And now where you just said, for me, the idea of maybe how I'm going to get there might be a little bit tempting, but the recognition of transition to spirit itself I do not have fear of. Years ago, it had to be like 90s. I was in meditation, and it was imparted to me that the more you align yourself with your spiritual self, your transition will be easy, because you're already in realized presence of what I am. So that's the goal, is to keep our mind in enlightened consciousness, aligned as much as possible with the fourth dimensional consciousness, with the Christ mind. And then when the seeming image is let go of, it'll barely be anything at all, because we're already in that presence. And I really think that that's part of the entire vibration that's lifting at this time, is people are realizing who they truly are. And if we don't have to worry about bombs or war or anything if we are in realized presence. And like we said, realized oneness is healing. Realized love, there's no death. And that's what we are. So I think
It's
we're down
beautiful.
1 minute. So we did good here. We extended it. Susan.
That did great, really. I think having an NDE had to really be an amazing experience, because every NED I will listen to, they all say basically the same thing, that you just recognize that, the true self is not the body. The true self is the spirit. And that's what you are when you have an NDE. You're in
Right.
spirit. And that's such an amazing recognition to become aware of, to be given the gift. In a way, it is a gift. It
Yeah,
really
because
is.
you're aware of yourself as pure awareness. And
Mhm.
that's the goal. And for me, after having that NDE, I don't call it like a near-death experience. I call it a near-life experience, because that is the experience of what we are in truth. So it is a blessing also. And then, for me, it was, I was very cognizant to come back here, go deeper and deeper in my own self-realization, and to be truly helpful. And I fully know, like the prayer says, to be truly helpful, I have to be in spirit, because only spirit's truly helpful, not the ego. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, my dear.
Love you,
Have a
Myrna, so much. You know
love
that.
you too, honey. Yes. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Have a joyous weekend. I'll see you all here next week.
See you next week.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks, you guys. I love you all. And we will close this.